Hi, this is William from Great Affordable Watches, and in this video I thought I'd go through my watch collection. And to those who have seen my previous watch collection videos, this is more like an update. But for all of you who are new to the channel, I thought it would be fun to go through my watch collection again. Because some things have changed since my previous update about 5 months ago. So I thought to go through what is new and what has gone from my collection. But before we jump into my collection, I thought I'd go through what is gone from the collection since my previous update. My 3 King Seikos are still here. The same can be said about the SKX013, it's still in my collection. But I have actually sold my Rado Captain Cook limited edition. I will go through why I sold it, or I actually traded it for another watch in this collection. And that is basically the only watch that I've gotten rid of since the previous update. And as we can see, a lot of new watches have entered the collection. Okay, we can start with the Rado. I actually traded it for the Credor Phoenix, which I'm gonna talk more about in a minute. And when I got my Tudor Black Bay, which is still in the collection, I just didn't wear the Rado Captain Cook that much. I thought it was a bit similar to the Tudor Black Bay 58, and in most cases I would rather pick or rather wear the Tudor than the Captain Cook. But it was still a great watch and definitely one of my favorite diving watches at that size. So I miss it a bit, but I think the trade made my watch collection a bit more versatile. But this is not really a versatile watch collection. But we can start with the watches that are still in the collection from my previous update. And we can start with the Tudor Black Bay 58. You guys have definitely heard about this watch, the Black Bay 58. I've talked about it many times in my previous videos, and this is definitely one of my absolute favorite watches of all time. It's just a great all-around diving watch at 39mm. It's fairly thin as well, a lot thinner than the previous Black Bays. So yeah, I have a review of this watch on my channel, and this watch will definitely be a keeper. I know that you often hear this and then the next minute the watch is gone, but this is definitely one of my absolute favorite watches I've ever owned. And yeah, I just enjoy wearing this watch. If you guys have been thinking about getting this watch, I think they are a bit easier to get these days. I'm not really sure. I heard they are still pretty hard to get a hold of, but not impossible anymore. So yeah, I can highly recommend this watch. The next watch is the King Seiko 5626 7040, and as I said, I've had this watch for quite a while now, since my previous watch collection video, and about 6 months before the video was released. So yeah, this is a really nice dress watch from King Seiko, and as you guys who have seen my previous videos know, I'm a big fan of King Seikos and Seikos in general. So this King Seiko is definitely a keeper. Yeah, I just really love the old King Seiko watches. I think they are one of the better vintage watches you can get right now. And from what I have seen, they are becoming harder and harder to get because they are getting more popular, I guess. So yeah, if you are looking for a King Seiko, I definitely recommend that you pick one up. And this is the Chronometer certified version. It's a bit different when it comes to design. It doesn't look like your typical King Seiko. The case design is a bit different, and these are pretty hard to get with a non-polished or slightly polished case. You often see these watches rounded here at the lugs, so I just had to pick one up when I found a good looking and a non-polished version. And yeah, it got the golden medallion, which is really nice looking. So this watch is still in my collection, but now let's move on. And this is also a King Seiko, the 5256 8010, and this watch is yeah, it's pretty hard to find. It's pretty uncommon these days, and it got the 5256 special movement, which indicates that this movement is at the top of the King Seiko lineup. Some would argue that this movement is equal or even better than some of the King Seikos that was released at the same time. So yeah, this is basically the top of the line King Seiko watch or King Seiko movement. And I really like the big crown, and this watch is, yeah, it's just got that typical King Seiko design. And this watch is actually from Diani, which is one of 2 Seiko factories, so I just had to own a Diani and a Suva watch. Now I actually got 2 Suva watches, Suva King Seikos, because they are more common, I guess, than the Diani version. But yeah, I just love this watch. I don't wear it as often as I would like to do, but yeah, I am a big fan of this King Seiko. And the third King Seiko, and definitely one of my all-time favorite watches. Now the strap is a bit damaged as I've used it quite a lot, this strap. But this is the 5626 with the day and date, 7110 if I'm not mistaken. And this watch is perhaps the most iconic King Seiko ever released. It's got that very typical grammar of design. And yeah, I just love this watch. It's in absolutely fantastic condition, all original of course, like the other 2 King Seikos. But yeah, this is just a really nice example, and definitely a keeper in my collection. I just love this King Seiko. But I've talked about it so many times before, so let's move on to what's new in the collection. And of course, the Seiko SKX, still a great daily watch. And this is definitely one of the most used watches in my collection. I paired this up with a green canvas to make it a bit more sporty. And I must say, I really like this combo, and this watch in general is, yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite affordable watches. But you have heard a lot of talk about this one, so I won't really bore you out with it. But I think the 7S26, as I've said before, is not the best movement, but I think it's something about this watch, the look, the feel. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's a really, really nice watch, even though the movement is a bit lacking. If you have seen my accuracy video I recently released. But enough talk about the SKX. It's a very common watch, so let's move on. And this is the Seiko SARB065, or known as the Cocktail Time. And this is just a really nice looking watch. Definitely one of my favorite dress watches from Seiko that they make right now, or actually this watch is discontinued, but you can still get it. And this was a bit of a spontaneous purchase, so I would probably sell this watch, and it's probably sold when this video is released, or at least for sale. So yeah, I really like this watch. I think it's a gorgeous watch, but I just have to get rid of at least one Seiko. I have far too many in the collection. But other than that, yeah, this is a really nice watch, and the dial is for me the highlight. One of the best looking dials Seiko have released, and of course it's iconic, the sunburst dial on this watch. And yeah, it's a all around well built watch, very high quality for your money. And some people find this watch higher end than the new Cocktail Time with the 4R36 instead of the 6R15 that can be found in this watch. And I do agree, I prefer this watch to the new Cocktail Time. But yeah, let's move on. And this is the Hamilton Khaki Field 38 automatic with the H10 movement. And this is probably one of the best affordable watches, around $500 you can get. I'm just a big fan of this watch. I have a review on my channel, which I can link in the description if you want to check it out. And yeah, this is just a really nice field watch, tool watch, 100 meters water resistance, 38 millimeters, great ETA movement, and the most important thing, it looks great in my opinion. And I thought I'd add a field watch to my collection, so I don't use the Seiko SKX all the time. Yeah, I think this is a nice daily wearer, and with the 100-meter water resistance while still being very slim and dressy is just perfect for me, and I'm really impressed with the thinness. So yeah, a really nice, impressive watch, and a very popular watch in the watch community. Of course, for the right reasons. This is a absolute fantastic watch. But yeah, let's move on. And the next watch is of course the Omega Seamaster, and this watch got the Cal 285 movement, and this is a really nice watch. It do need a service, unfortunately, but I just had to pick up a Seamaster and add it to my collection. I'm a big fan of vintage Omegas. They are a bit like the King Seiko for me, offers a lot of history and great value. And this watch with the cream dial that got some patina, yeah, I think it looks really nice. Of course, the original Omega crown and the famous Seamaster caseback, which I really like. So yeah, a really nice watch. I do have to get it serviced before I start wearing it. It's a bit stiff in the winding mechanism. So other than that, I really like it, and the Cal 285 is a very interesting movement. It got the Breguet hairspring while having the Inca block shock protector. So this is a bit of a transitional movement that had some of the old parts that many people liked, like the Breguet hairspring, while having the new Inca block shock protector. So this is to many one of Omega's greatest manual wound movements, and I do have to agree, it's a really nice movement. Okay, let's move on to the second Omega, and this is this is my latest acquisition, and I've been looking for a Seamaster like this for a very long time. They are pretty hard to find in great condition, and this watch is just in fantastic condition. The dial is absolutely gorgeous. This is the 166032, and this is a pretty special watch. It got the Cal 752, which is basically a day-date version of the 565, which is a legendary movement from Omega and considered one of the best vintage movements in general, and at least from Omega. And what makes this watch stand out for me is not only the cream or the champagne dial, which is absolutely gorgeous, it's also the case. This doesn't look like your typical vintage Seamaster from the 60s. This watch is actually from 67. This got more of a what you would consider a traditional Seamaster case that is a bit more modern, with the chamfer and a brushed bezel with a nice chamfer, as well polished chamfer. It's a pretty thin watch as well, and just a overall gorgeous watch with a really nice dial and a really nice case. And this watch is actually 36.5 millimeters in diameter, so it wears more like a modern watch, and a perfect size for me. I think this watch is just a really nice Omega Seamaster, and if you're looking for a vintage Omega but think that some of the watches are a bit too small, I think this is an excellent option, and this is definitely one of the best looking vintage Omega Seamasters in my opinion. I must say I really like the Constellation as well. I think those watches are just really nice looking. But yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite vintage Omegas. I just love this watch. And the final watch is the Credor Phoenix. I will leave, of course, the full reference number down in the description. And as I said in the beginning, I traded the Rado Captain Cook for this one, and I think it was a really nice trade. As I said at the beginning, I didn't use the Rado as much when I got the Tudor, and the Credor Phoenix is just a really uncommon or rare watch that you don't really see that often, and it's a very special watch for me, or I should say this is a pretty special watch from Credor, as Credor these days, they have rebranded itself a bit and they make some very high-end watches, which is just too expensive for most people. And back in the late 90s. They made some excellent chronographs, including this one. This is definitely one of my all-time favorite chronographs from Seiko or Credor. And I think this watch is perfect at 40 millimeters in diameter, and it's not that thick as well. It's just a really nice package. And Seiko these days, they make some very big and hefty chronographs, so this is definitely a really nice chronograph from Seiko. Of course, it's automatic, I forgot to mention that, and it got the Credor or Seiko SKX013 movement, and it's not that much information about this movement, but those who know a lot about Seiko says that this movement is as close to a Grand Seiko chronograph, an automatic Grand Seiko chronograph, you get, as the 7S movement lineup builds on the same foundation as the 9S series from Grand Seiko. So the foundation of the 6S and 9S found in the Grand Seiko are basically the same. They are very similar, or I would say almost identical when it comes to the ground foundation. But this is of course an automatic chronograph, so in that sense they differ a bit. And the finishing as well is very similar, very close to Grand Seiko overall. And yeah, I would say that this is as close as you're gonna get to a Grand Seiko chronograph, with the great movement and the great finishing, and especially I think at 40 millimeters it both wears very well and it looks great. It's a very traditional chronograph, a very understated chronograph, which I really like. So yeah, I can do a quick wrist shot of this because there's very little info on this watch, or I should say very little videos. So yeah, let's do a quick wrist shot. So yeah, here it is, and it wears a bit bigger because this is a chronograph of course, but nonetheless it wears very comfortably on the wrist at 40 millimeters. It's a great size for a chronograph, and thanks to the pretty small thickness at around, I believe it's around 40 millimeters, that's pretty small for being an automatic, high-end automatic chronograph. So really impressive watch, and honestly this is one of the most impressive watches I've seen, and I'm just really a big fan of this watch. The finishing and the movement and the looks are all shaping up and combining to a really great watch. So yeah, that's all for the collection, and let me know what you think of this updated collection. I have added, as I said, a lot of different watches, a lot of new watches, but I think this collection really suits my personal taste, and to have a really nice diver, the Black Bay, together with a field watch, the Hamilton, a couple of dress watches, Omega Seikos, and a nice Credor chronograph. I think that's, for me at least, a really nice collection of watches, and it suits my personal taste, my personal needs. So I'm actually really satisfied with how this collection have shaped up, and I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section. What do you think of these watches? Which one is your personal favorite? Would you sell some of these watches? I will sell the Seiko SARB065. But other than that, would you sell any other watches? And what would you get instead? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section. But now I have rambled on for too long, so I will now end this video. And of course, thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed this video. And as I said, leave your thoughts down in the comment section. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.